Hi, everybody. Before we get to another great interview, we could really use your help. IMDb, which is the entertainment database, recently named the Two Opinionated podcast one of its top 100 podcasts. This is a monumental feat for this program. You know, we're a father and son team out of a small town in West Virginia, have been doing this for about 5 years. There's 15 million podcasts out there. About 40,000 of those get to the point that they're listed on IMDb. Out of those 40,000 out of the 15 million, we were ranked number 82. Something that we're just immensely proud of. We're so thankful for our listeners, our watchers, our fans. Thank you so, so much. If you would like to help us out, and we're asking for it, please. It's easy. It's really easy. It's free. If you go to IMDb, that's imdb.com, look up Two Opinionated Podcast, and just take a look at the page. That's all you have to do. I mean, you're welcome to look at the cast, look at the episodes so you can kind of see who's been on the program. Do whatever you want. But even just bringing up the page, imdb.com, Two Opinionated Podcast, bring up the page, look at it. That helps us so much. So please, if you can do anything, we would really appreciate that. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. Love to have your subscription there. It's also free. And you can also check out our website, meistercon.com, where you'll find almost 700 episodes, audio and video, available on there. There's also a terrific blog from Brett, and it'll let you know anything that we have going on in studio, if we're covering a convention, if we're going on location, anything that we have going on will be on the website, meistercon.com. Thank you guys so, so much. We appreciate you so much. I can't express enough how appreciative we are of all of you. We never expected to do as well as we have, and that's all because of you. Thank you so much. Enjoy that interview. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. Welcome to another edition of Two Opinionated. I'm so excited today. I've got actor Erniel Baez with me. Welcome, Erniel.
Hi, how are you, my friend? Thank you very
I
much.
did my best.
It sounds great.
Say it the way it's supposed to be said, though.
Erniel Baez, but that's as close to perfect as I've ever heard.
No, that's terrible. That's terrible. But the way you say it is really pretty. Really pretty. It flows.
It sounds exotic. Is that it?
Sounds exotic.
So it sounds like you're in the beach somewhere.
So I got a Cuba question for you.
Okay.
So nothing too difficult, but I had always heard that, which Cuban food, by the way, amazing. It's just amazing. But I've always heard that in Cuba.
That's what I hear.
What's that?
Not in the hotels though, but when you go out to the street, right? Because it's the common criticism that we hear, unfortunately. Yeah, when you go out to the street and you hear it, and you get the chance to actually taste the real food from the people. Yeah, thank you very much.
I bet it's amazing. Yeah, I bet it's amazing. Yeah, and that's kind of the case everywhere. You know, like it's always the places you don't expect to have good food that have the best food.
The small
little mom and pop joint.
Places. Yeah. You have to your mother out back in the kitchen. That's been cooking for years. Yeah.
So my question is, I always heard that in Cuba, most of the cars are like the older cars from like the 50s and 60s. Is that true, or is it just cars?
No, it's not a myth, but there is a significant amount of old cars, of old American cars and old Russian cars as well. You do find a lot of those Ford and Chevy 1950s, 57.
No, and those cars are awesome.
Yes. Now mind you, the facade is the car of 1950s, but when you open that car up, inside you have all different. We've been trying to keep them running for 60 years, so those cars are.
You open like a lawnmower in there.
Right. Yeah, there's all kind of things. You have pieces from Chevy, from Ford, from Lada, from BMW, from anything and everything that you can get work. But yes, there's a significant amount of those, mainly in Havana in particular, because which is also very important touristic attraction for the
Yeah.
tourists. When
Yeah.
you go there, you see those cars, and many of them, the nicest ones, are used for taxis, and they drive around the tourists to the main places.
I
So
was
yeah,
curious about that. I always heard that, and I was like, well, that's kind of neat. Just to have
yeah.
older
I
cars.
think when Hollywood got a chance to film a little bit over there a couple of years ago, I think was Transformers and Fast and Furious. I
Yeah.
think the world got a chance to actually see that
Yeah.
within the scope of film, and especially in the Fast and Furious one. I remember they really showed a lot of the actual city, and you see a lot of those cars going around, and you see the beauty of the. It's almost like a city that's stuck in time.
Yeah,
So
exactly. Yeah, I thought that's pretty neat. Have you had a chance to go back over?
I try to go back every year.
Really?
I'm
Yeah.
I'm fortunate in that way. I know that's not the case for all of us Cubans, but since I arrived in Canada in 2004, and pretty much every year I went back, with the exception of COVID. When COVID was around, I wasn't able to go back for about 2 years. But I try my very best every year, year and a half. Now, as you get older, you have more responsibilities and
Right.
things that.
A little tougher.
Yes, but I have my home back there, and I still have family, so I make it a goal of mine to try and to go back as often as
Yeah,
possible.
that's awesome. Yeah, that's cool. Well, so you came over to Canada. Is that when you got interested in acting? What got you into the entertainment business?
Acting, I don't really see it as act. I approach it more as film. Film
Yeah,
has always been there for me personally. Films were there in my life since I can literally remember, since I can go back to my earliest memory. It's me in front of a TV watching a film with my grandfather. So that goes back to when I was like 4 years old. The reason was that was really the main source of entertainment.
sure.
Come nighttime, for my grandfather in particular, it was a very important thing to try to. He would run a couple of VCDs at the time, and he would always watch what I would come out. So I would always sit down with him at night, watch 2, 3 films with him, and then I'll obviously, like in any Latin household, between 7 and 10 o'clock at night, if there's a second TV on that one, if there's only one on that one, you have the soap operas, right?
Well, of course, you got to have your stories.
You gotta have your soap operas, and all the grandmothers and the moms, and they're all watching their novelas, and so I would watch that as well. So I grew up with that, so that had significant impact and influence on me. But I was very involved in sports at the time when I was younger, and so then I eventually immigrated to Canada. I was 8 years old, and then I got started in sports and in hockey. I got influenced by the whole
That's
world of
like a
hockey.
rule in Canada. You have to try hockey.
It's yeah, it's one of those things, it's around you, right? And it's infectious, and I found it interesting, and I started at a pretty old, considering most people here
Yeah,
start at 3 years old or skate before they're walking.
right.
And me, I started when I was around 12, and I wanted to go pro. That was my ambition at the time. That was my ideal. And then eventually, until I was about 15 years old, then eventually I realized that I wasn't gonna go as far as I really wanted to. And so immediately, I remember it was one summer, I was back home, I was in Cuba, in my house, and I wasn't gonna be able to go to the training camp for the AA of midget, because I was gonna go to another division. And then I said, well, listen, if I'm not gonna make it AA in midget because I'm not going to the training camp because I'm here, I might as well forget about making it to the NHL. So I said, um, I I took like 2 hours. I was sitting down in in the dining room and in the living room, and I said, well, now I got to figure out something else to do with my life, really.
Yeah.
And so then I asked myself a very important question, which was, is there anything in your life that has always been there that you haven't necessarily, paid attention to it as much,
Yeah.
that you would like to try, that you wouldn't, that you'd be interested in, and perhaps pursuing? And then I realized it hit me right away, really. It was films, and and telenovelas, anything that I can get my hands on that
Yeah.
was entertainment based, which I really loved and had shaped me to that point. So then I said, okay, so then I came back at the end of the summer, and then I started investigating on my own, start seeing how can I get involved, get my feet wet, sort of, so to speak. And so I started doing workshops at this school called MSOPA, the Montreal School of Performing Arts, and I did 2 workshops there. And then from there, I took off. One of the teachers there became my agent later on.
Awesome.
He started representing an agency for an agency. So then I asked him if he could represent me, and then we took it from there slowly, and then eventually, I was able to get my first speaking role. I think it was 15 or 16 when that happened, and then slowly, just auditioning, get your headshots, try to build your resume from nothing. Did a lot of theater as well. So, the typical story. All the while I was finishing high school and working in restaurants, really,
Yeah.
like so it's very typical in that.
You really followed the typical actor path.
I did. I really did. Yeah. I took it to heart. I said, how do you do this? There you go. No, I did.
Have that side job.
That's right. That's right. But it's been fortunate because so far, it hasn't been overnight, and God willing, there's a lot of more things
Oh yeah, you're
that
getting
are waiting
started.
for me later from this point on. But it's been since I started. I was 15. Now I'm 27, so it's been 12 years all of a sudden, and in 12 years, here we are.
Yeah, that's amazing. I know the first time that I saw you on camera was probably Reacher, and so
Yes.
when the request came over for you to come on the show, I recognized you immediately because I just finished, watching. I binged all of it and got caught up on it. And you've got a very recognizable face, I think, which is probably beneficial in
I
in
appreciate
acting.
that.
But yeah, I liked seeing you on Reacher. So when I got this request, I was like, 100%.
Thanks very
Bring
much.
on.
I know it. And that character is still alive there somewhere.
He
So
could come back.
he I'm gonna have to talk to Rich about that. I'm gonna
Right.
say, Richardson, we gotta I think Reacher needs some help here at some point in time. I think we gotta
Maybe he's
make
hanging around town for some reason.
we need Death Sergeant Diaz coming back at some point.
Well, we know that he's willing to work with police. We've seen that.
Right. Yes.
You
And
guys
as
partner up.
right, and I helped him, and he never came back to say thank you to pick up. Look, I mean, it just stayed that way, right? So we gotta do something about that
You
because
know, if it were, if I was him and somebody asked me something like that, I'd be like, "Oh yeah, we'll get you back on the show." But then knowing me, I'd be like, you'd be back on the show, but we'd immediately kill you off, and the season would
the
be
next, so
solved.
that doesn't happen again. Two
Yeah,
seasons next, so that you get another cut. No, but I think that I felt that way from the minute I read the script initially,
yeah.
and just the nature of that scene. The nature of that scene felt as if there was more there.
I felt the same way.
As it pertained to even just that specific dynamic of them together, or the task that he was going to help him with. I felt like it sort of stayed in 3 points
It
sort of thing.
felt like Sergeant Diaz had more to give.
He has more to give. I really believe that, and we'll do a campaign for that, and maybe we'll get lucky. And
I want to make some phone calls.
first person I'm going to talk with when that happens.
I tried to get Alan on the show years ago, back before Reacher. I mean, he kind of blew up with Reacher, but he was doing Titans.
Yes,
and and even before that, he did a pilot where he was Aquaman, and then
right. I read about that.
It never got picked up, so I knew who he was, and tried to get him for the show based on he played Hawk on Titan. Right. And then of course he got Reacher and blew up. I was like, it's a little more difficult now to get him on.
A little more difficult now. Yeah, the line is a little thicker now.
Is he as is he as big as he looks in person like he does on screen?
He's big.
He's a big guy.
He's very big. He's a very big guy. I mean, I'm not exactly sure the height, but I'm pretty sure it's around 6'5".
I don't know. So he looks as wide as he is tall.
And yes, and you know what? And he looks even bigger in season 2 than in season 1 when I met. Yeah, he looked even bigger. Just by seeing the trailer, I knew right away he looked even bigger, and he was already in incredible shape in season 1, obviously, as the whole world was able to see. But great guy, very nice, down to earth, professional, simple human being. And it's always appreciative when you get to work with colleagues that are like that, especially when they have the number 1 on the call sheet. in the world of acting, really the number one on the call sheet. It really creates an atmosphere that the rest of the cast members end up following. You know, it creates sort of an environment.
I
But
mean,
when it
that's
has
the role, right? If you're number one on the call sheet, then you're kind of, and not really in charge, but you're kind of in charge of making sure everybody's okay.
yeah, exactly. You know, I've been very fortunate, like specifically with Hotel Cocaine, which we'll talk about, and one of the most wonderful things about the experience was exactly that. The fact that we were able to work with such talented people from all over the world, but that the core, the leaders, the number one on the call sheet, number two on the call sheet, not only were they incredibly experienced and incredibly wonderful human beings, but they were incredibly professional, and they knew exactly how to make everybody come together and feel as we're all doing this together, and this is a family, and making sure, like you said, that everybody's okay and everybody's able to give their best, you know, because when you feel in that kind of family like environment, you can relax and you can really
Well,
give
that's
your
right.
best. You know?
Yeah, that's right. Because the opposite is also true. You know, if you've got a lead actor or actors that are kind of rough or standoffish and stuff, it can affect the chemistry of the whole
Definitely,
cast.
no doubt, definitely,
You know, and
100%.
as a fan, we can tell when there's good chemistry, but we can really tell when there's bad chemistry. You
You
know,
can't
because you
fake.
can't, maybe you don't know exactly what's wrong, but you can tell something's not right. And those are
Yeah,
the shows that usually don't make it.
it's infectious. Chemistry is one thing that you can't put your finger on it. It's either there or it's not, like you said. And the camera, you can't lie to the camera. The camera picks everything up, and as soon as something is off, the camera sees it even before you feel it while you're doing it. The camera's
Right.
there. You know, you can't. It
Can't
captures your
hide.
soul, like Al Pacino said. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So, well, so let's talk a little bit about Hotel Cocaine because it's from, I think, some of the guys that did Narcos. Is that right?
That's right. One of the co-creators of Narcos season one, which is
Which
Chris Bronco,
Narcos was terrific.
was fantastic. It was
Yeah.
fantastic, especially when it came out. It was a hit show, and all of its seasons. Even then, the Narcos Mexico has always
Yeah,
been a
yeah, it
hit.
did really well.
We were in very good hands, as you can imagine. We're in incredible hands with Chris Brancato, which was, the showrunner and, co-writer as well. We also had Michael Paynes on, who had worked with him also in the past, and so,
Did he
you know,
reach out to you for a role based on that you worked together, or was it just coincidence?
well, it was my first time personally working with them,
Yeah.
but immediately, I had the story with Hotel Cocaine was this. Initially, I had auditioned for a part.
Hmm.
This was, I believe, it was about January last year.
Like 23 January. Yeah.
Yeah, 23 January. I auditioned for a role which I liked. It was recurring in a couple of episodes, I believe, a handful of episodes, and it was okay. It was great. I read the synopsis of the story, and I immediately knew I wanted to be part of the story
Yeah.
because of all kinds of things. Number one, the era in which partaken in. I always
Yeah.
wanted to be
Is it
part
like
of something.
70s, 80s, that 90s, somewhere in there?
Well, the story's in 78, but anything involved in the 70s, 80s,
That's awesome.
Miami, during the cocaine heyday. I grew up loving, it's one of my favorite movies, Scarface.
Oh, me too.
And just eventually I read up on it, and then I realized it wasn't just fiction, it was actually based on a real place. And then the more I found out about it, the more I was interested in the project, because I was like, this is incredible. And the stories that I was reading blew my mind. So I was like, this actually happened, and they're making a show about it. And it gave me also the opportunity of being able to, perhaps, depending on what character I got, to play a Cuban American character, which I had never done before.
Yeah.
And so there was all kind of things that appealed to me. The fact that I was going to be able to work with Chris Brancato. And so I read for this first part, and then no news came in for about 2 weeks and a half, I believe,
Yeah.
around 3. And then I said, okay, well, that's a shame, but I was like, I like that
Gonna move
audition.
on.
So you sort of do, but then it stayed in the back of my mind because I really liked that show based on what I had read on it. And sure enough, 3 weeks later, I got another request from the production, from casting, that they were interested in me reading for another part. So I read up on the part. Next thing you know, I like this. I sort of knew him right away. For
Yeah.
some reason, I just knew who he was immediately. I knew his, even before, actually, because it turns out it's largely based on an individual that actually existed, that actually lived, that actually frequented
Okay.
the
That makes it
movie.
even better, I think.
Makes it even better, you know. It's there are parts of him as in the script that are a melange of different characters, but really the core of it, the core of it is on one actual individual that actually existed, which even had the same name as him, first name as him, and so that helped me a lot when I was studying up for it.
Yeah.
And so immediately I did that audition. I sent it. I felt really strong about it, but then again, I felt
Right.
as all very strong about many other things that unfortunately have not, you know, come our
Well, that's
way.
why acting's so hard, because you can do an excellent job and
And
still
still,
not get the part, because they're only going to pick one person, you know, and
and there's
it's a
many
matter of
things
opinion.
that come into the final decision of who gets it. You know, it's not necessarily just who's better or who looks better the part or who has the most experience or who does the better job in the audition room. It's really a mix of a million things, and it
Yeah.
can go to a smaller detail as one's height or one's color of hair or one's resume or one's experience or all kind of things, right? So you never really know. That's the
No,
thing
you
about it.
never know. And
But
that's
but yeah,
got to be tough, though, as an actor, especially if you're progressing through the auditions to the point
yeah.
where maybe it's just you and one or two other people that they're deciding on, but then they choose the other person. I mean, that's got to be rough.
You know, it used to be like that, especially with the old way of doing it. And by that I mean that especially after post-COVID, right now, most of the audition process, at least is my experience, uh, is more done through self-tapes.
Yeah, it's tape now.
You're not in the room necessarily, and so you're not waiting in line literally for, all right, you know, number three, get in,
I'm gonna
right?
say you're in a room with everybody looks like you.
Exactly. You know, you have five cousins you never met. You know, everybody looks alike. And so, but when it was like that, you did feel that because
Yeah.
as you progress in the audition process, obviously, you remember that the first time I was here, there was like 15 people, and then the second time there was like seven, and now the third time there was like three of us, and you know it's one of us three for sure getting it. And if you don't get the call back, you know, eventually. So, and you know, sort of like I remember when I've heard like from Pacino and De Niro that they would go up for the same similar kind of things.
Oh yeah.
So, and it is like that. So you end up really seeing the same kind of people most of the time for many projects based on your look or your background or the kind of practice that you're known for. And so you, when it comes down to the last two or three, you know each other by the first name, and you know, like, oh man, I hope it comes my way, but it can, it's one of those things you can't really put your finger on. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
I'm friendly with actors that, though pre-COVID, they would go on auditions and see the same people on every audition. You know, they're
Right.
basically competing against the same guys every time. You
Yeah.
know,
No, really.
sometimes they get the part, sometimes one of them would get it. But
No, it's exactly like that. I mean, it's almost like a, not to make a sports analogy, but it's like in athletes that you know are being named time and time again, and there's a certain competition that starts happening whether you like it or not. You know,
yeah,
because it is art. It shouldn't be competitive, but in the end of the day,
it is.
everybody's gonna put meat on the table, so everybody's, you know, fighting for that role. And like I said, you never know. That's the thing, that no one ever knows what's in the mind of those that are
That's
casting.
right.
Obviously, you know that they want what's best, but you don't know what's best for them is, and they might not even know what's best for them. You know, that's one of those things that you have no idea. Like it feels good, the energy's good. It feels like it's being oriented towards a positive outcome, but then again, it could just as easily end
Well,
up
yeah,
not being so. But what's important, I will say this, what's important is just to continue to have good work. You know, I think that even if you don't get the part, if the fact that they're seeing you, that they're asking to see you, and if you get a chance to go further along in the audition process, that means a lot, because it might not be a tangible thing that you can put your hands on, but obviously it works in the minds of the casting directors, of whoever's directing, or of whoever's producing that show, and they might think of you for the next project.
that's
You know,
right.
especially casting directors. You know,
Well, yeah, it's a
they
lot of
recognize
networking.
it. It's a good sign.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of networking with Hollywood, because you do, you know, you may not get the role, but if you make a good impression, they're going to remember you.
Right, because there's always another project. There's always another project, and it might be happening as you're doing that audition.
That's right.
You never know. It might be one of those things that, as they're seeing you there, they're like, it just pops in their head that character description from this other project that they're working on, and then as soon as they leave that day, they're thinking about, okay, actually, you know what? I don't know if this work will work out for this, but I'm thinking about you for that.
Right.
And you never know. You never know what the
You
final.
never
So
know.
as long as you're just giving your best work and you try to stay positive mentally, which is the toughest battle is up here, because you have to go
Well,
through a lot
yeah,
of.
because if you're like if you're kind of tender hearted, you're gonna have a hard time. Like if you can't take a no, then you're gonna struggle.
Yeah, because most of the job is going through the nose in order to find that yes. But I'm a firm believer that ultimately you get what you're meant to get. Ultimately
That's
you're
right.
what's meant to be yours will be yours, and no one will be able to take it from you. And there are some roles that you really feel like, and if I would just get this chance,
Yeah.
no, I
No.
have it in me to blow it out the park, and you don't get it, and you don't really understand the reason why. But I believe that, if you just keep on walking down that path, sooner or later, what it is meant to be yours,
That's
you'll
right.
get it. And you'll realize, looking back, somehow you'll connect those dots, and you'll realize that, what, it was meant to be this way. It's better off this way somehow.
Yeah, that's how I go through everything. I'm kind of thinking if it's meant to happen, it's gonna, the universe tends to find a way to make it happen.
Right, right, right.
You
Yeah,
just
because
got to be
otherwise,
patient.
yes, it's a marathon, not a race,
That's right.
especially when you're talking about career or something like that. It's so, but it is difficult. I mean, it's easier to just say it over a podcast and just talk about it, but when you're going through it,
Oh, it's
as you
got to be
go through it,
miserable at times.
it's tough, because like I said, everybody has family responsibilities, things they have to take care of, and you're trying to keep most of the time a dream alive, all the while keeping your responsibilities
Yeah.
where they need to be as well. So it's incredibly tough, but ultimately, if it's meant to be for you, if it's something that you feel deep down inside that it's your calling, it's a passion of yours, it's something that you're meant to do, you'll find a way through the struggle to keep going, and eventually,
Right.
it'll come your way.
Yeah, it'll work out. So
Ready for the success that
that's
comes
what.
with, and you'll be ready for the success that comes with it
That's a
afterwards. You'll
good
appreciate
point,
it.
I think. Yeah, if you don't struggle a little bit before you get there,
Yeah.
then are you really going to be able to handle that? Because success is a type of stress too.
Yes, for sure. And it happens like this. It's like success, once it hits you like a snowball. Next thing you know, it's incredibly big and it's on you. And how are you mentally prepared to deal with, say, the spotlight or the criticism that comes with the spotlight, or the responsibilities that come with any kind of success, whether big, small, or that's very subjective, but so it prepares you definitely, and it
Yeah.
makes you mentally tough so that you can endure much more
Yeah.
once you get.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Yeah, of course. Of course. So the show, Hotel Cocaine, and it's coming out on MGM on the
GM Plus.
16th of June is what I think, right? MGM Plus, which I think is they rebranded Epics, right? That was Epics and they turned it into MGM.
Right now, it's become right now they've created this new entity of sorts, and it's gonna be
When
interesting.
they put out some good programming.
Yeah, I mean they have great shows on already. They have Billy the Kid's on there. You
I
have
love Billy the Kid. Love
Father
From.
Harlem as well as there,
That's a
which
great one.
is written by the same showrunner, by Chris Brancato as
Oh,
well.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, that's Forrest Whitaker, right? Is starring
Yeah,
that.
Whitaker's a star of
Yeah,
that
yeah,
show. It's a success. It's on its fourth season, and
yeah.
so we're very fortunate to be on that kind of platform with that kind of company. Because obviously you want to be on a platform that has the best of the best when it comes to entertainment, because you know that many people are going to be interested in watching whatever you come up with new.
That's
If
right.
Because if you're just the one show that's good, the one hit show, odds are, unfortunately, less eyeballs will see them. So we're
That's
very
right.
fortunate. There's a lot of good shows on there, and that's the exclusive in the States. But then again, in the rest of the world, it'll appear in all sorts of different
Right. Yeah, it'll be all
places.
over the place, which is
So
kind of cool.
really people.
It's cool that the world has opened up now, entertainment wise. We're getting here in the States, we get a lot of stuff coming from other countries that we didn't get before. And I think the reverse is true. Now some of our stuff, Canada's stuff, starting to filter to other countries as well. So it's pretty great.
Well, no, I agree entirely. I mean, that's the one thing that I think is the most positive about platforms nowadays is that it has really exposed the
Yeah.
whole world to the cultures, the talents, the entertainment of the whole world,
Right.
And those platforms, I think they feel the responsibility because their viewership is all over the world. They feel the responsibility to represent all those cultures,
I
all
know.
those.
And we're reaping the benefits because there's so much
True.
material now.
Yeah, exactly.
Too much. You can't
You don't
watch
know what to
everything.
watch. Yeah,
You
you
know,
don't know what to watch.
that's it.
There's so
That's
much
it.
on
So what is Hotel Cocaine about? I think we know a little bit.
right.
And what's your role in it?
Well, Hotel Cocaine is a story that takes place in 1978 during the heyday of what was the cocaine heyday of Miami. Um, it's seen through the eyes of a character called Roman Comte, which is the general manager of a very renowned hotel and club called the Mutiny Hotel, which actually existed and is still there to this day. Um, Roman Comte is a Cuban immigrant that happens to be the manager of that hotel, which unwillingly turns into a CIA operative for reasons that we'll see when we watch the
I
show.
see.
And so it's a wonderful show that's full of all kind of different characters, all
Yeah.
kind of different colors and tones and textures, a lot of action and a lot of drama. And ideally it helps the viewer be able to get a glimpse of the wildness that
Right.
was taken in that time, which whoever lived through it will understand exactly what I mean by that. So my character is Ray Dorado. So Ray Dorado is a very prominent banker in Florida, which happens to be a regular client and customer of the Mutiny Hotel and the Mutiny Club. The thing with him is that he has dubious ties, to say the least. As you can imagine, an individual that has a certain stature, that has a certain power to him, that's been around that city in that time, he has different connections to different kinds of worlds, and it's very interesting because when he comes into the show, he's gonna serve as almost a spider that has a spider web that connects to all kinds of different facets of the shows and all kind of different characters within the show as well. So I see him as really the embodiment of the American dream because
I like that.
he's a Cuban American immigrant that arrives to the United States with nothing, and that by his means, whether those means are proper or not, that's very subjective. But by whatever means are necessary, he finds a way to climb all the way up to the ladder and really get his piece of the American dream, right? And so it's interesting because it's a character that has many facets.
Yeah. Yeah, that
And
sounds like a really interesting character, which is what you want on those type of shows. You want your characters to be deep so you can connect with them.
exactly, three-dimensional, because
Yeah.
nobody wants to just see a good guy or a bad guy because at the
Right.
end of the day, nobody's 100% good 100% of the time or 100% bad 100% of the time. Everybody has good days and bad days, and everybody interacts differently depending on who they're with. And
Yeah.
especially somebody like that in that kind of world in that time dealing with all kind of different characters, not characters because they're in a show, but just characters because people were characters back then, especially in Miami in the 1970s and 80s. Um, you develop a certain people skill,
Right.
right? And so it's interesting because you dive into how does an individual act and interact and react with different individuals in different moments, in different scenes, in different places. There's different power structures. Sometimes you're the powerful one, and sometimes not to be, and whatnot. And you only get to that kind of level of of power if you know how to deal with that power structure.
Right.
That was one of the things about that character that I found from the get-go was how did he get to where he is now, and what has he learned on his way there that enables him to be able to continue forth, you know.
It has to be fun just playing a tough guy.
You know, it's fun, especially if you have the opportunity to work on a project where you have a character that's three-dimensional, like we said, that has many facets, like we said, and that the script enables you to have moments where you are vulnerable, moments where you're weak,
Awesome.
moments where you're strong, moments where you're at your height, you know. When you have that, yes, it's very enjoyable, because then you remember that, you know, 2 scenes ago or a couple of days ago, you were not in this position. So you really, which helps you to understand those characters, because most people that have power, and sometimes with certain individuals abuse it, is people that in the same times have been on the other side
That's right.
and used by power themselves. And so once they get it, they want to make sure that the individuals that they are more powerful than know and understand that they are under their heel this time around, right? So it's interesting the psychology of those moments, and I was fortunate enough to have my fair share.
Yeah, that's awesome. Did you have to do any did you have to do any special training? Did you do weapons training? Did you do your own stunts, that type of thing?
I did do my own stunts. I did not do, unfortunately, for this project any kind of weapons training and whatnot. But I did do my own stunts, and there is
You
going to be
look like you keep in pretty good shape, so I would think that this type of character, you'd want him to be somewhat athletic.
you know, he thank you, first of all. I try, but he is as athletic as a man, you know, a man from the 70s,
Right.
80s, you know. I mean, how athletic can you be when you're drinking every day,
Right.
smoking every day, doing things, you know, that you're not ideally supposed to do if you want to keep healthy every day? But at the same time, the character's in his 30s, so he has a certain athletic uh, posture about him.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, unfortunately, I didn't get a chance, or it wasn't needed for this particular character, for this particular show, to do any kind of training per se. But I was able to do all my own stunts, which was fun, because I did have some stunts, and there are going to be some scenes there that are going to be very interesting to watch, and hopefully people will react to them as much as I did when I had to do them.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. And I'm sure that this isn't a limited series, right? I mean, the goal is to have multiple seasons.
That is the goal. Yes,
Yeah.
really
Are
that's
will
our
we
that's
see Ray after the first season? Is this story going to continue?
well, I guess we're gonna have to wait and find out.
That's
I
right.
think I'll find
I'm
out
gonna
along.
cross my fingers because we want Ray to come back.
Yes, we want Ray back. We got 2 campaigns going on already. We got Ray's
You're
campaign.
going to be busy.
We got all kind of campaigns for coming back. Yeah, hopefully, man. I mean, I love the character. I really did love the character. And I've said this everywhere, and I felt this from the get go. Just this project in and of itself, scratches off so many goals that I had on the wish list. For many reasons. First of all, being able to shoot in the Caribbean was
Not
always a
terrible.
dream. No, it's beautiful, but also because it's close to home. So
Yeah.
yes, we did shoot in Cuba, but it was wonderful, and to be able to be a part of a story that takes place in that time, like I said, and to be able to play a character that is largely based on a real character, that's something that I was really interested in as well. And then obviously there are other things, like being able to work with greats like Danny Pino, like Gil Vasquez, like Michael Chiklis, like Guillermo Navarro, Academy Award winning, that was our director for
Yeah, I
two
forgot
wonderful.
Michael Chiklis is in this. I mean, that's
Yeah,
big time. You know,
yeah, that's time. And me and Michael, we have our own. We'll go back and forth a couple of times. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be
that's
fun. I look
awesome.
forward to seeing those scenes. No, he's a great guy, fantastic guy, and really almost like a father figure. And was really open and down to earth, and just a lovely human being. And we would sit down and have large talks in front of the beach with our cigars, and it was just some of the great times that I'll always cherish for sure.
Yeah, I mean, that's terrific. And that's like, as a fan, that's the type of stories we want to hear. Like, you want to know that the people that you love on screen get along off screen.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Of course. You know, it makes you even more interested in seeing
It
what's going to
does.
happen on screen once you have an idea of what happened, but behind the camera.
Right. Speaking of behind the camera, any designs at some point in your career to step behind the camera, to direct or to screenwrite, anything like that?
The truth is that I'm very focused and going as far as I can possibly go in front of the camera. And it's one of those things that you can never really perfect acting or
That's right.
master it. There's always something to learn. But the more the years progress, the more I have realized that there's a certain creative hunger within me
Yeah,
that I would not be surprised if in a near future, at some point in time, if it were to happen, that I would be interested in the opportunity of being able to direct. But I have much, much, much to still, learn and experience in front of the camera.
that's right.
But at some point in time, yeah, I would love to do that. And hopefully, if I continue to have the opportunity to work with great directors like I had in this show, specifically speaking, you learn a lot,
Yeah,
just by watching them direct as well. And you learn a lot as an actor because you get an opportunity to work with different filmmakers that have different perspectives on different ways of working. And you pick your own things. You pick what you like, what you don't like, what you think is interesting, and that stays in the back of your mind. Then eventually, hopefully, if you do come across that kind of opportunity where you can direct, you have that suitcase full of experiences, and then you can use it.
yeah, yeah. You got the tool belt is full, so
Yeah,
you can pull out what
exactly.
you need with that. Yeah, yeah, that
You'll
makes
still be winging it first time, but
that's
it's gonna be
right.
less of a wing it because you have that, right. You'll have the
Is there a genre that you haven't got to do that you'd like to try?
question genre that I would like to do. You know, just uh, I would, I grew up loving crime dramas,
Oh yeah,
specifically speaking, organized crime drama. But this kind of world of hotel
yeah. It
cocaine
kind of fits.
touches that a little bit. So, because me, Scorsese, Pacino, De Niro,
Yeah,
Coppola, that was my bread and butter. But I would love to be able to do just a drama, but like just 100%. It doesn't matter if it's a low budget. Just those hardcore, straight to the
where you really
bone.
get your emotions out there.
Those dramas that you start on day one and you can't wait to finish. You're just like, why am I involved with this? Because it really exposes even sides of the human condition and of yourself that you had no idea were there or that you hoped would never come out. I would like to go through that. It sounds a little torturous, and it is, I guess, a little torturous if you do it right. But I've always identified a lot with that genre per se.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And then, a little bit of everything. Adventures as well. As I've gotten older, I'm still very young, but as I've gotten older, I've sort of watched less and less of that genre. But I know deep down inside that when I was growing up, as any kid, I loved adventures, as we all did, right?
Yeah,
We all watch those films, and to be able to partake in projects that have a certain variety to them,
yeah.
and ultimately, hopefully, can impact people when they come across it the same way that so many films of so many genres impacted me growing up.
Right.
I learned how to walk specifically from a specific genre and a specific movie of a specific character, of how to talk in certain ways of another movie in another genre, and so it influenced me a lot. So hopefully, if I can be a part of at least one film that can be as impactful to somebody in the world as so many films have been impactful to me, then I've done it right.
Were the outfits that you got to wear for Hotel Cocaine pretty awesome? Because you're dealing with late '70s outfits, and that was my opinion
Fantastic.
the best fashion time.
Fantastic. We had the most amazing costume designer,
Yeah,
and just team. And so the level of authenticity that we see in the costumes and in the wardrobes are just
I'm excited to see that. I mean, I'm excited for the whole show, but just to see that,
it brings to life. Yeah,
yeah,
it just brings
life.
to life. Those sets, the sets, the wardrobe, everything. As soon as you walked on set, you would feel like you were transported, and that's just the rawness of it. So you can only imagine after you edit it and you do your film magic, how real it looks. But me personally, my character, I was very lucky because I've always loved suits since
Yeah,
I was a kid.
yeah,
I've always thought that a man looks at his finest if he gets the chance to be clean shaven with a haircut and a nice suit.
there you
I
go.
always thought that. I always thought that. And this character happened to have just, a prominent banker in 1970s
Yeah,
in that kind of world where there's
he's
so
gonna be in a
much
pretty good
money
suit.
flying around, and him, the real character in real life, was so flamboyant
Yeah,
in that sense. He was so based on what I researched and what I found out. He was so flamboyant, and his appearance and his appeal was so important to him. But just everything from what he would wear to what he would drink to what he would eat, everything had to just flash
yeah.
money and importance. And so I got that chance to play him, and by playing him, I was fortunate enough to have I had lost count, but he has so many different kinds of. I think every scene he has a different suit on, literally.
That's awesome.
If it's not for continuity purposes, because it happens to be that's really directly after this. If it's a scene that's taken place in a different moment, he's got a different suit. He would change clothes 2, 3 times a day. This guy shows up to the club in a Rolls Royce. He with one suit, then goes upstairs, freshens up, gets another
What a
suit, and
fun
then
character to play.
yes, very fun character, to just play around with when you're dealing with all those different things that are out there, the clothing, wardrobe, the environment, and just his relationship with all those different characters. It's very fun. It's a very fun time
Yes,
to part of. It's because it has that feeling of everything is rushed, but everything is appreciated to the maximum. Everything is out there. Everything. I didn't live in the 70s and the 80s. I was born in 96, but you feel that. You feel
right,
that
right.
adrenaline, that rush, and at the same time, everything is just. Enjoy the moment and everything's to the fullest. Nothing is midway. Everything is all the way. It's either up
Yes.
here,
That's a
down here,
really good
and
description of what it was like back then.
yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. What do they think back home about you acting?
Well, they're excited now. They're excited now because this specifically is coming out, and it's gonna be hopefully very big, and people
Oh,
get
it's
to
going
see.
to be a hit. We know
Oh,
that. It's just from who it's coming from. It's
right,
pretty good
exactly.
odds that it's going to
For
go.
them, it's interesting. My family's been obviously, following whatever I've been doing throughout the course of
Yeah,
the last years, but now also because of the subject matter is something that's closer to home as well, and so hopefully they'll enjoy it. Hopefully they'll enjoy it, and everybody that comes across it will enjoy it because it was definitely done with the best possible people and the best possible environment. So, and I think just that subject matter is one of those things that's like it's like popcorn when you go to the movies. You can't get enough of it. You
that's
know what
right.
I mean?
Yeah,
And
I don't know what that is, but you're right. We all feel it.
yeah, it's like just that world, that environment. It's got everything. It's got organized crime. It's got the 1970s, 80s era of Miami. It's got the action. It's got the drama. It's got the clothing, the environment. Just everything about that kind of world is attractive to people,
Yeah,
and it's entertaining to people mainly.
yeah, that's awesome. That's good
So
for you. That's a if you have to get a big role, that's a pretty good one to get.
yeah, yeah, no. Every day you gotta thank your lucky stars because like we were speaking before, they don't necessarily come around as often as you'd like, and it's like we were saying, you gotta have faith that at some point in time when it clicks off, it'll be the right one for you, and ideally once that happens, you find yourself doing a role that you deep down inside feel that I was born to play this. A
Yes.
million people might play it, but this is Nobody watches the Godfather and thinks after watching it somebody else could have played Michael Corleone. Nobody
No, you're
ever says
exactly
that.
right. Yeah, nobody says that.
But I'm sure that as you play a role like that, if it's really meant to be for you, deep down inside, you feel that same thing. You feel like, okay, this was supposed to be for
Yeah.
me, and I really feel that way.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, sir, thank you so much for taking a little bit of time. This has been great. I'm excited for you because I know you're really just now hitting your stride, let's say. But I know there's a ton coming after this one is finished up. So yeah, can't wait. Can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you very much. I really appreciate you having me on. It's been a great chat, and hopefully we'll be able to get to do this more often
Oh
very
yeah,
soon.
we got to do it again when the next big one comes. You have to come back. Or maybe
Again,
after the season wraps up, we can talk a little bit.
for sure, man.
Then
Anytime.
we won't be giving anything away.
That's right. They won't be giving anything away, but we'll still be on our campaign, right?
Oh yeah, we're still working on our stuff.
Sure, for sure. Hey, I really appreciate it. Thank you very much for your time. It's been awesome, and I look forward to it. And hopefully, you'll enjoy the show when it comes out, and the rest of the world will enjoy watching it as much as we enjoyed filming it, because it really was a hell of an experience, and everybody's gonna be in for a hell of a ride.
Heck yeah. Yeah, no, I'm looking forward to it. Before I let you go, where can we find you on social media?
Social media on Instagram, it'll be Erniel Baez, just
Mhm.
my name, and the same thing will happen with Facebook. And I try to keep the same name pretty much.
Yeah, and you come right up. Like if you put my name in, you put Michael Wall in, there's like 100 of us. But you put yours in, it's just you.
You're number one in my heart, Mike.
I appreciate that. All right, sir. Hang on one second. Erniel Baez. I know I'm not doing justice to his name, but what a great guy. And the name sounds awesome when he says it, but unfortunately, you guys know you're stuck with my West Virginia accent. So I did the best I could. Hope you enjoyed that one. Please check out Hotel Cocaine MGM Plus on June the 16th. Check it out. MGM is a worthwhile platform if you do not subscribe already. It's a fairly cheap monthly cost, and you get a lot of really good original programming. I'm very partial to From. The new season for that should be coming out pretty soon. But Billy the Kid was good, and their War of the Worlds is one that I watched, and there were some others. They put out some really quality content, and it's from the guys that brought Narcos to you, so you know it's going to be good. And Erniel, I think, it's going to launch him a little bit. I think he's not going to be as anonymous after this. It's going to be really, really good for him. He was great on Reacher. Hopefully we'll get to see him make an appearance back on that one as well. Thank you guys so much for tuning in again this week. Please help us out, support us. We definitely could use it. Father and son team, small town West Virginia. We've worked for about 5.5 years on this podcast now, and I would put, I'm not sure how we're doing it, but I would put our guest list up against anybody else, any podcast, any talk show. I think we've just been tremendously blessed with our guest list. We've done almost 800 episodes now. You can find all of those audio and video versions on our website, meistercon.com. So please check us out there. If we're doing anything in studio, going on location, covering a convention, anything we have going on, be on the website, meistercon.com. Our YouTube channel is MeisterCon Pod. I'd ask that you please subscribe. That really helps us out. It's free. You can also check us out on imdb.com. They recently named us a top 100 podcast, 15 million or so podcasts and growing. To be on anybody's top 100 list is pretty special. IMDb, if you're unaware, is the entertainment database. If you go on there and look up Two Opinionated Podcast, it'll show you all of those 800 or so guests and all the episodes that we've done as well. So please check us out there. Thank you guys so much. Till next time. Bye, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm once again here to ask for your support. It's been a big year for the Two Opinionated podcast. Back in February, we got to live out a dream, moderate for William Shatner here in our hometown. In May, we passed 100,000 downloads on our YouTube channel, and we followed that up in June with 50,000 downloads on the audio side. We recently posted our 600th episode, which is pretty good volume for just a father and son operation. You know, not too many podcasts can keep that volume up. We've been doing this now for 4.5 years, 600 plus episodes. We recently hit 1,000 subscribers on our YouTube channel, which is a really big deal for us because we've always gotten the views, but have struggled to get people to subscribe. So that 1,000 was a big deal for us. And best of all, we were recently named one of the top podcasts on IMDb, which is the entertainment database. You know, those that are ahead of us, we came in at number 82. Those that are ahead of us are bigger companies like Disney, mostly Marvel, and Joe Rogan, that type of podcast. So for us, being just a small West Virginia father and son podcast, to be in the top 100 out of 15 million, it's a pretty big deal for us. So thank you for everything you've done for us so far. Got a couple little ways, though, that you can help us, and they're free, and they're really easy. If you haven't checked out our YouTube channel yet, please go to YouTube. It's under MeisterCon Pod. Just hit subscribe. It's free. Doesn't cost you anything. Really helps us a ton. And maybe even more important, if you could go to IMDb, imdb.com, look up the Two Opinionated podcast, and just look around the page. Just having that traffic on the page really helps us out. So that's a couple easy ways that you can support us, even if you're not listening or watching all of the time. And we want you to listen and watch, because I think that our guest list, I would put up against anybody, any other show, podcast, anybody out there. I think our guest list holds up. So please check us out. You probably will find somebody that you like, or maybe somebody that you didn't know you liked, but kind of discovered them on there. There's tons of that. If you're into music, we have that too. If you like books, we've got authors on there. If you're more into what goes on behind the scenes in the entertainment world, you know, we've got producers, directors, video artists, anything you can think of that happens behind the scenes, we've had them on the show. So definitely check us out. Thank you guys so much. Until next time. Bye, everybody.